Yeah, hi. Good morning, ma'am. Start. Okay, so okay, so today agenda, these are the things we have to understand. So what is operating system? Why we are using this operating system and the types of operating systems, and what is the difference between Linux operating system and Windows operating system? What are the flavors available in Windows operating system, and in Linux also there are some flavors means okay, there are different types of operating systems are there. So what are the system resource? So system resources we have to understand the keyword. So and after we need to understand what is the open source and the enterprise. There is a open source product is there. There is a enterprise operating system is there. We need to understand. Then after we need to understand what is the file and what is the folder. In Windows we know everything is files and folder to store the data. In Linux there same thing. There is a file under directory. The same file is there in Linux environment, in Linux operating system. Instead of folder, there we can say directory. And in Windows, so there is a different drives are there: C drive, D drive, E drive. In Linux, what we can say? So there we have mount points. So these are the terms, terminology we have to understand before starting the Linux installation. Okay, so let's see. So what are the different types of operating system? There is a two different types of operating systems are there. One is Windows, other one is the Linux operating system. So Windows, we know all are knows Windows operating system because all the laptops it's a default operating system which was installed when you buy a laptop. So most of the 99% it's a pre-installed operating system, Windows operating system. So before going to types of operating system, what is the meaning of operating system? What is the use of this operating system? So without operating system, are you operate any device? Device means computer or mobile. Suppose if you buy a mobile, so without operating system, are you able to dial to, are you able to call to someone? Are you able to receive the calls? What are the calls? Are you able to send the message? No. So any device, it should be installed one operating system. At least minimum one operating system is installed. Suppose if you take computer, yes, computer, what type of operating system we use? Either Windows operating system or Linux. Linux is the new. We are new to Linux operating system. We'll discuss. So we know Windows. It should be installed Windows operating system or Linux operating system. Without these two, either Windows or Linux, we cannot operate the computer. That we all are knows. So operating system is a interface between user and a computer. Computer means computer. What components it have? It has memory. It has storage. It has a processor. These all are we call as a system components or system resources. These all are we called as a what are those? RAM, physical memory. People called as a physical memory, and so and storage, hard disk. People called as a hard disk or storage, and processor. So these are all called as a system resources or system components. So operating system is a interface between user who are going to use the computer. Suppose I want to use my computer. So I am a user. So system laptop, if laptop contains it should be contain memory, it should be contain storage, it should contain processor. Processor means nowadays it's a minimum i5 processor. i5 to what is the latest processor? i11 something. This is the processor i5, i7, i8, and storage minimum it should be required. So any laptop it should be 500 terabyte, 500 GB or 250 minimum. So it in worst case, it should have 250 GB or 500 or above. That's fine. Next. So how much memory required minimum? Minimum it's required at least 8 GB. All the laptops, it should contain 8 GB memory. These all are system resources, system components. So operating system is a interface between user and a computer, user and a hardware. Hardware means it contains memory, it contains storage. You can see here, this is the operating system. This is the operating system. This operating system is a interface between users and hardware. Hardware, it contains what are the hardware components? It could be CPU, it could be RAM, it could be IO. Yes, we know RAM, physical memory. CPU means yes, it contains multiple components, including storage device. So this is about operating system. Without operating system, we cannot operate any device, not only computer. If you take, if you take mobile, if you take mobile, yes, we cannot operate any device. We cannot operate any device. So that is the importance of operating system. Without a computer operating system, a computer it's useless. Yes, even though computer is at home, without operating system, it's a useless. First, we have to install one operating system. If it is a computer, what type of operating system we can install? Either Windows or Linux. If it is a mobile, what type of OS it should be installed? If it is an Android mobile, there is a Android operating system. If it is a Apple mobile, yes, there is a Mac OS. That depends on type of mobile. We have to. It's a pre-installed operating system. So if it is a computer, either Windows or Linux required. If it is mobiles, type of mobile. If it is Android mobile, we require Android operating system. If it is a Apple, it's required Apple operating system. So how can manage these operating systems? So there is a two methods are there to manage these operating systems. One is command line mode. How can operate this any computer? There is a two methods are there. One is command line mode. Command line interface means there it's required all the commands to operating system to operate any system. If you want to go with operate any system via command line mode, there is required all the commands. That is example is Linux operating system. If you take Linux operating system, so if you want to something, if you want to open notepad file, yes, for opening notepad file also, it's required some command. You have to give the command, right command, then only it open the notepad file. Means it's fully working, Linux operating system fully working on based on the commands only. That is the command based operating system, that is Linux. Another one is GUI, graphical user interface operating system. Means what is the example GUI? GUI means with the help of mouse I can open. Suppose I need to open notepad. Just a search bar, click on notepad, click on open. Yes, the notepad will be open. Means with the help of mouse I can operate my Windows operating system. Example for GUI, it's a Windows operating system. It's a very easy Windows operating system to operate any computer. So these two operating systems required any computer, either Windows or Linux. Windows we called as it's a user-friendly operating system. It's not required any commands. If it is Linux operating system, it should be required commands only. Those commands only we have to know before going to database DBA course, because all the database will be running on Linux operating system, not Windows. That's why we have to know first the importance of Linux, how to log into, how to operate a Linux operating system, what are the basic commands required. If it is Windows, it's very easy. File copy, remove. Suppose I want to remove this file. How to remove? You can say just right click. You can remove. There is a, let me, can say just a, there is a remove is there. Yes, can say. properties, show more properties. You can say there is a delete. If you want to delete this file, click on delete. It's going to delete. If you want to copy this file, copy. If you want to cut this file, cut. If you want to rename, like this, with the help of mouse, easily we can operate this Windows operating system. But in case Linux operating system, it's not easy to this much easy. So that's why Windows is a user friendly operating system or GUI operating system. Linux is a command based operating system. In Windows, what are the flavors available? Means versions. Flavors means versions. What are the versions available operating systems? Windows nowadays, Windows 11. All are knows. In outside computers, mostly they are using in Windows 10 or some people they upgraded 11. You can see either Windows 10 operating system, Windows 11. This is the version, operating system version, Windows 10, Windows 11. The initially we seen 10 days, 15 days, 15 years back, 10 years back, 15 years back. What is the operating system in Windows? Which flavor operating system they are running that time? Windows XP. Most of the guys they seen, yes. So after Windows XP, which version they released? Windows 7 operating system. Then after they released Windows 8. Then after they released Windows 10. Then after they released Windows 11. So who developed this Windows operating system? Yes, anyone knows? Who developed this Windows? Who is the owner of this product? Who developed this operating system product? That owner we called as a owner of the product or vendor of the product. Who is the owner of this Windows operating system? Yes. Who is the owner? Microsoft. Microsoft is the IT third party software company which was developed operating system Windows. So who is the owner of this Windows operating system for all the flavors? Microsoft company. So if you want to utilize this Windows operating system, yes, you have to pay the license amount for Windows Microsoft company. We have to take the license first. Suppose if you want to establish the company, there it's required 100 computers. 100 computers if you want to use Windows operating system. Yes, you have to take the license from Microsoft company. Then you can use this Windows operating system. So why databases using Linux operating system? Why not use Windows operating system? In Windows, hackers easily hack the system. So what is the purpose of database? What is the purpose of database? To store the data. To store the data. Suppose if you take SBI or HDFC or ICICI Bank. So this banking system, sir, the data is very, very important. It's a very sensitive data. It's a financial data. If 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 someone is hacked the system, yes, no one use these banking systems. These banks no one use. So to keep our data, financial data, to keep our financial data very, very securely, our database should be running on Linux platform. That is the importance of Linux. That's why all the database go for Linux operating system, not Windows. If it is Windows, there is a chances are there to hack the system easily. If it is Linux platform, there is no chance to hack the system if it is Linux operating system. That's why people are go with the Linux operating system, not Windows. All the database will be running on top of Linux operating system. That's why we have to know these basic commands of Linux. That's Windows. These are the flavors available. So for all Windows developed by Microsoft company. So any computer, any laptop, it should be installed Windows operating system or Linux. If it is Windows, who is the owner of Windows? Who developed this Windows product? Microsoft company. Okay. If it is mobile, there should be Android operating system or Mac OS. It should be installed mobiles. Okay. Who developed this Android mobile, Android operating system? There is Android company is there. Who developed this Mac OS? There is a Mac OS company is there. They developed this operating system Mac OS. For mobiles, these are the operating systems we used. In Linux, if you take Linux operating system, what are the flavors available in Linux? Linux or Unix, both are same. Linux or Unix operating system, both are same. So what are the flavors available in Linux? There are different flavors available. One is RHL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. RHL means Red Hat and R means Red. H, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Who developed this operating system? RHL is, it's a one type of Linux operating system. The name is RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. This operating system developed by Oracle company. Oracle company. So who is the owner of this RHEL? Oracle. So RHEL. RHEL developed by RHEL company only. RHEL company only. So OEL Linux. OEL Linux. So Oracle Enterprise Linux. This is one type of Linux operating system developed by some company. Which company developed? Oracle company. Oracle developed by Oracle company. IBM Linux. This is also one type of Linux operating system. If you want to, which Linux operating system you want to use, you can take the license, the respective owner, you can use it. These are the types of Linux operating systems. IBM Linux. This is also one type of Linux operating system which was developed by IBM company. IBM company. So HB Linux. This is also one type of Linux operating system developed by HP company. Ubuntu. It's a open source product. Open source product or open source operating system means no need to take any license. Like in older days, there is a antenna. For antenna, you are paying something? No. For Dish TV, Airtel TV, we have to pay every month. Then only they give the channels. So Ubuntu is a free operating system. But why people are go with the license product? It's already free product is there without no need to pay anything. I can use this Ubuntu operating system. Yes, you can go. What are the difference between enterprise? What are the, these all are enterprise operating systems. Enterprise means there should be license defined. You have to take the license. Those product it's not available free of cost. These all are enterprise operating systems. You have to pay license if you want to use any one of the operating system. If you want to go with Ubuntu, no need to pay anything. It's a available free of cost. So while using this operating system, if you face any issue, suppose the operating system I am not able to start, there is some issue I am not able to fix. Then if you are using licensed product, suppose if you take Airtel TV, Airtel Dish TV, whatever, Airtel or Dish TV. So suppose if your channels are not coming properly, then what you do? Immediately you can call to Dish TV customer care. So you give complaint, yes. After giving complaint, immediately they call you. So they ask what is the issue. So they try to fix the problem. Yes or no? The same way, suppose if you take a Dell laptop. So after buying the laptop, after 2 months, there is issue. I am not able to open the Dell laptop. Then what you do? You have to call to Dell customer care. You have to explain the problem. You have to raise a ticket. They raise a ticket for your issue. So based on the ticket, they will call you. They will fix your problem. That is the licensed product, enterprise product. So the same way, if you use any of the licensed operating system while you are using operating system, if you face any issue, simple, you can raise a ticket with Oracle Linux. If you are using OEL, Oracle Corporation, they will call you. They will try to fix your problem because you are paying license amount. You are paying something. You are not using free of cost. Suppose if you are using Ubuntu, if you face issue, there is no one to support us because we are not paying to anyone. We are using free of cost. It's a open source product. Understand? Open source product and enterprise product. Open source product and enterprise product. Understand? Anyone queries? Open source operating system. enterprise operating system. Open source means no need to pay anything. It's available free of cost. What is example? Ubuntu operating system. So enterprise operating system, it's a license based operating system. It's a license based operating system. You have to take the license, you have to pay some amount yearly something. So here what is the example? OEL. These all are license based operating system. Suppose if you are using a HP Linux, you have to take the license from HP company. If you have any issue, you have to raise a ticket with HP company. They will fix your problem. Clear? Any queries to understand what are the types of operating system? Why we are go with Linux operating system? What are the flavors available? Windows. What is the flavors available? Linux operating system. What is the open source? What is the enterprise? What is the vendor? Clear? Anyone? Any queries? Feel free to ask if you have any queries. Okay, if no queries, okay, I can say difference between open source product and enterprise product. Yes, open source means no need to pay anything. It's available free of cost. Okay, in if you take a real example, antenna. If you take operating systems, Ubuntu is a free of cost. It's available free of cost. No need to pay any license. So if you take okay, the if the enterprise means you have to take the license. Need to pay license cost. Example RHEL, OEL, HP Linux. We are using Oracle for all the flavors of Linux operating system. The commands are same. If you even though if you take any type of Linux, what are the commands we are going to learn as a DBA 50 to 60 commands required. Those commands are same for any type of operating system. It could be HP Linux, it could be IBM Linux, it could be other Linux, any Linux, Ubuntu. Okay. So if you take database also there is a open source database, enterprise database are there. What are the open source database? You can see Oracle database. It's a who is the vendor of this Oracle database? Oracle company. The name itself, they give name is Oracle DB. So who is the product? Who is the owner of this product? Oracle DB? Oracle. If you want to use this database for your project, you have to take the license from Oracle company. It's a commercial database or it's a licensed database. Postgres database. It's a open source database. No need to pay anything if you want to use Postgres database for your application. That's why nowadays more requirement is there for open source for PostgreSQL DBAs because clients they can utilize the database without a license cost. That's why they most of the clients they are using nowadays PostgreSQL database to store the database. So EDB Postgres, the Postgres is available open source version and licensed version also the database available. Who developed this? Who provide this licensed DB? EDB company. They take an open source database. They added some features and they started this product. They give name is EDB Postgres database. They started this product to sell some license cost. So this Postgres SQL available open source version and licensed version. In licensed version, EDB organization, EDB company, they provide the licensed database, EDB PostgreSQL. So if you want to use open source database, you can go with open source. MySQL, who is the owner of this database? Oracle company. MS SQL, this is the one type of database. Who is the owner of this MS SQL? Microsoft company. So only this database will be running on Windows platform. Except this database, if you take any DB, all the database will be running on Linux operating system. Clear? Anyone any queries? Okay. So that's if you take databases, these are the commercial databases, these are the open source databases. Okay. So we know these are the Microsoft Windows, Apple macOS. Please keep on mute. Okay. Android for Android mobiles, we are using Android operating system. For Apple, we are using Apple OS. Okay, Microsoft Windows computer laptop, we are using Microsoft Windows operating system. We know system resources. So what are the system resources? Initially we discussed it should be memory, it could be storage, it could be processor. These are all we call as a system resources. So OS is an interface between user and system resources. We know open source or community version. Yes, for open source product we call as a community version. So if you take database, PostgreSQL is a community version of PostgreSQL database. Enterprise database means it's a EDB database. It's a commercial product. If you take commercial product operating system, you can take either RHL or HP Linux or APM or Oracle Linux. You have to pay license. If you want to take open source product operating system, you have to take Ubuntu only. It's a free of cost available. Okay, so let's discuss difference between Linux and Windows. Difference between Linux operating system and Windows. So let's say, suppose this is my Windows operating system. Here you can say, so in Windows, how to verify how many drives are there? These are the drives. People called as a drive. C drive, D drive, E drive. It's a very easy to verify how many drives are there, what is the total capacity, how much used, what is the this drive total capacity, 296 GB. This C drive capacity storage, total allocated space is, can say total size 296 GB. Space free, how much free? It's a 20 GB free only. It's a very easy to get the information in Windows environment. So D drive, just go to the cursor and keep on it. What is the total size? 925 GB. What is the free space? 259 GB. So E drive. So if you add these three drive details, you get the total capacity of this laptop. So these we call as a drive: C drive, D drive, E drive. So in Windows, everything is how can store the data in Windows. Suppose I want to store some movies. How can store? I have to use any one of the drive, yes or no? If you want to copy the some movies, you already done. Sometime, so I want to copy the movies inside the laptop. You have to use any one of the drive. Suppose I want to use this one. Open the folder, then keep movies, then here I can copy the movies. Yes or no? Means here everything I want to store the data. Suppose I want to store the information. How can copy? How can you what I can use? File. I want to create a file. Can say open. Okay, let me show more options. New. Here is the file, notepad file. Okay, so you can say you can notepad file. Suppose I want to store the information. So this is can say I want to store this information. Information means collection of words. This is one word. You can say this is 36 batch information. Student 1. Like this, I want to student 1, student 2. Like this, I want to store the information. This is the information. This is the one word. Collection of words we call as a line. Collection of lines we call as a information. I want to store this information. Open the notepad file. You can type information what you want to save. So if you want to save this information, Control S. Where you want to save this file? Suppose D drive. Select the path. D drive, keep movies. Yes. What is the file name? Suppose batch number 36. Save. Yes. Can say. So let me go to path. D drive, movies. Can say. To store the information, what is the purpose of in Windows? Everything is either file or direct file or folder. What is the purpose of file? To store the data. Data means collection of information. If you want to store the data in Windows operating system, you have to use a file. This is the file. If you open the file, I can see the information. Let me open. Can say, yes, I can see. I save the file. So file, the purpose of file is to store the data, to store the information. We used a file to store the collection of files. Suppose I want to store the file. To store the file, we used a folder. Can say inside the folder, I store the file. Here you can create a number of files. You can create a number of files and a folder also. Inside the folder, I can create the folder. Means in Windows, for anything, there should be file and folder. The purpose of file is to store the data. To store the data, we can use file. Folder is to store the files or folders. We can use folder. The purpose of folder is inside the folder, I can store the files. I can store the folder as well. That is the purpose of folder. So, C drive. When you install Windows operating system, the OS binaries, the OS installed a default C drive. D drive. What is the purpose of D drive, E drive? To store the data. If you want to store some data, yes, I can use D drive or E drive. C drive by default, OS is installed C drive. Mostly people, they can use other than C drive to store the information. Clear? So in Windows, all our files are folders. File means to store the data. We used file. Folder means inside the folder, I can store the folder. I can create a folder, another folder. I can create another file. But inside the file, if you want to create another file inside the file, no. Inside the file, I can store the data only. I can store the information only. That is the file. That is the Windows operating system. But in case of Linux operating system, what is the equivalent to C drive, D drive, E drive? Let me see. This is Windows, Linux operating system. In Windows, we call as a C drive, C drive, D drive, E drive. So these are the we called as a partitions. How many partitions are there in Windows? There is a 3 partitions are there. We called as a partitions. In Linux, we called as a mount points. Mount points. Suppose U01, U01, U02, U03, U03. So this is root file system. Everything is file system. So C drive equal to slash in Linux. D drive equal to slash U02. These all we called as a mount points in Linux environment. Here we called as a partitions. Partitions. Here we called as a mount points. The naming conversion is different. Mount points are file systems. File systems. So here, what is the partition? C drive, D drive, E drive. Here, what are the partitions equivalent to? Partitions in Linux we called as a mount points. What are the mount points available? Slash E02, slash E03, slash TMP, slash TMP temp file system, slash var. There are these all are file systems in case of Linux operating system. Okay. So in Windows, how can store the data? Either file or folder. Either file or folder. In case of file, what is the purpose of file? To store the data. Yes or no? We already seen. What is the purpose of folder? To store the file. To store the file or to store the folder as well. In case of Linux operating system, what is the purpose of in here also there is a files and folders are there. What is the purpose of file? Here, what is the purpose of file? To store the data only. To store the data only. Yeah. So here also files and folders are there, but here we called as a folder. The naming conversion is different. Directory or folder. In Windows we called as a folder. In Linux people called as a directory. The purpose of directory is same. To store the so the purpose of directory is to store the directory or store the file. The purpose of file and folder is same in Linux, Windows. The naming conversion is different. In Linux, how we can store the data? We use file only. I want to create a folder. In Windows, to store the collection of files, we used a folder. Here we use a directory. The naming conversion is different. Just listen carefully. So that is the difference between Windows and the Linux operating system. Here we call as a partitions, C drive, D drive, E drive. Here we call as a mount points or file systems, U01, U02, U03, TMP, where. Here what is the purpose of file? To store the data. Here what is the purpose of file? To store the data only. Here folder to store the files or folders. To store the files or folders, we used folder. Here directory, people call as a directory to store the directories under files. Clear? Any queries as of now? I think we discussed many things. Let's see, these all are covered or not. So what is operating system? We seen OS is the interface between user and hardware. We already seen. What is the difference between Linux and Windows OS? We already discussed. What is the Windows flavors? We discussed it. What is the Linux flavors? We discussed. What is the system resources? We discussed. Difference between open source and enterprise. Open source means it's a free of cost. It's available free of cost. No need to pay anything. Enterprise means it's a commercial product. We need to pay license cost. Difference between file and folder. File is to store the data. Folder is to store the files and folders. Difference between file and directory. Directory, the naming conversion different. In case of Linux, we call it as a directory. In case of Windows, we call it as a folder. What are the drives in Windows operating system? Drives means these are the drives. These are the drives. Partitions, we call it as a partitions. How many partitions are there? Each partition, what is the total capacity? Like this, we can verify easily. What are the mount points in Linux? Mount points are file systems. We already seen. So these are the things we discussed. Just go through this document. You can familiar with this, all the terminology. Then so that next class, it's very easy to understand. The next class will start with the Linux installations. How to install the Linux operating system. Next class is Linux installation. So we'll say what are the softwares required to install Linux in Linux OS. First we have to download the Linux operating system. Then we can start the Linux installation. Then we can say these are mount points. Once you install a Linux, there we can see these are all the mount points. Once you install Windows operating system, then you can say these are all the partitions. Yes or no? The next class will be Linux installation. Any queries from anyone? Okay, today I will share this record and this document. Go through this document. Okay, just familiar with what is the mount points, what is the partition, what is the OS, what is the flavors, Windows OS, what is the flavors in Linux, what is the vendor, what is the open source. Okay, just go through and read twice. And okay, one more time you can go through this record so that I easily remember. So it's easy for next class. Okay, so these initial classes, so that's why we are starting.